It's, yeah. Okay, yep. Well, I apologize about that. There was nothing that needs to be moved in the agenda, so we'll move on to the consent agenda, which contains routine matters that typically do not require board discussion. Individual board members feel free to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion or separate action. Tonight's consent agenda items are as follows. Approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting held January 24th, 2022. Approval of various personnel recommendations. Approval of educational support personnel master contract for 2021 through 2023. Accepting donations totaling $22,888.58. And approval of various bill vouchers, EP register entries, and EFT vouchers and Capital One entries as listed in the consent agenda. Could I get a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. With that, we will move on to the superintendent's report on excellence. Dr. Flesher, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a lot of good news that students have been working on. In January, we have had 5 seniors from Orono High School Student Senate, a part of a Student Senate panel at the Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals Annual Conference. Orono students were co-presidents Jack Kopesky and Ben Summers, Minnesota Association of Honor Societies President Jennifer Wynn, and Minnesota Association of Student Councils Vice President Katie McGran, Senior Senator Andrew Van Overbeek. And at the conference, Jennifer Wynn received the Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals Leadership Scholarship for her wonderful work at MASC. The Orono Jazz and Kick dance teams will be competing in the MSHSL Dance Team State Tournament on Friday, February 18th and 19th. They have been top ranked all season and are sure to turn in an amazing performance at Target Center. In February, we have students in buildings celebrating Black History Month. Activities for students have been embedded in curricular areas. Middle school has created a beautiful display commemorating important leaders in Black history. Orono High School is hosting a student design celebration on February 22nd, and we thank everyone working on honoring the contributions of Black Americans. Intermediate school 5th grader Luke Mitchell earned a top award, grand honors from Johns Hopkins University Center for Talented Youth in recognition of his exceptional performance in math. We are so proud of Luke's award and his infectious enthusiasm for learning. The Alpine ski team competed in sections on February 8th. The girls team placed 4th and boys team placed 3rd. 4 skiers qualified for state as individuals and will be competing this week. Senior Riviera Walk, senior Harper Randolph, sophomore Jack Scheidman, and freshman JT Burns. Nordic ski also competed in sections last week and is sending both Miles Miner and Sindri Bonner to the state tournament. These tournaments Wednesday and Thursday, February 16th and 17th at Giants Rib in Biwabik. And congratulations to all of our skiers. Also, section girls hockey semifinals and finals, the number 1 seeded Orono girls hockey team will host sections on Tuesday and Thursday night at 6 p.m. at Morrison Ice Arena. Tickets can be purchased starting today, so please cheer on the girls team. And finally, Let's Play Hockey announced the 10 semifinalists for the coveted Miss Hockey Award on Friday. Orono High School student Isla Reiskamp has been named a semifinalist for Miss Hockey. The award is given to the state's most outstanding senior female hockey player. The 10 semifinalists were chosen from a list of 27 nominees and voted on by a panel of high school and college coaches. Congratulations, Isla. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to board members' questions and comments, an opportunity for board members to update each other on committee assignments and activities that have been taking place since our last board meeting. Tonight we'll start with Ms. Howe and we'll work our way down this way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick share. I attended the Special Education Parent Partnership Committee last Friday. And for those that aren't familiar with this committee, this is a group of district and parent representatives that meet to help build open communication and trust, to help problem solve and share new ideas, and to work towards that common goal of having excellence in learning and educational enhancement opportunities for our students with disabilities. So this past Friday, there was a really thoughtfully prepared, and I enjoyed it quite a bit, wonderful presentation on mindfulness. Jennifer Henry, the special education teacher at the high school, as well as Erica Swenson, who is the special ed teacher at the intermediate school, both did presentations on strategies they use for their students. And really, a lot of those strategies are applicable to any of us these days. So they did a great job. And like always, I'm always impressed with the passion and commitment that these special ed teachers have for their students. So that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Ms. Borchers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My only update, I will be brief because Mike will be giving the robust version of this, which was a finance and facilities meeting. And so I'm passing the baton to Mike. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bash?
Okay, I better do a good job now. I'm on the hot seat. So one of the meetings I attended was as Sarah said, the finance and facilities meeting. And we had a great presentation from a speaker, Barb Nickel, who has worked with school districts across the state in passing levies. And she's a consultant and was doing this because she had been scheduled to speak at another conference that was canceled. And so we were able to bring her in to talk to just the three of us. It was really helpful as she gave examples about, it's some of the stuff we've heard before, but what works, what doesn't work, and putting it in the context, historically what works, and then in the context of things that have changed recently about, how people are upset about masks and how that might affect election. So it was really good. A couple things that came out of this. One was, and sorry this is going to bore you, but assuming that just as a reminder, the levy expires in November. So if we don't vote, if the voters do not approve it, a renewal in November, let alone an increase, it's for $1.2 million. We will have to cut $1.2 million starting in the 23-24 school year. There is no second chance after this. This is the final chance for this. And so one of the important things that she talked about was that we need to talk about this more frequently. One of the things she said, school boards sometimes don't talk about it a lot. They just vote on it and then expect everybody to be excited. Now, of course, we've got a summer in the middle where people won't be excited. So we're going to have to spend some time talking about when the committee will recommend that we actually, when we vote on this, probably based on that advice, probably late spring, early summer is when we would recommend that the board would vote on renewing the levy to present it to the voters in November. Again, not definitive yet, but to kind of give you a sense. But we need to talk about it more, just that it's happening and the ramifications for that. Because again, it is this is not an optional thing. This is, if it doesn't pass, it's pretty serious. I think one of the other things that we were reminded of as we talked about this is that because of the way we've structured the other parts of the levy, that even assuming this passes, people's taxes will go down next year. The way we've structured the other levies, again, we had this big one to help pay for what's happening at the Discovery Center. That falls off next year, and so we will actually have a tax reduction next year, even when voters vote to renew this. And actually, whether we would choose to do that or not, but if we gave them the option of increasing it, they can still increase it and still have a tax reduction. It's a pretty substantial reduction that they'll see next year. And just, it was some reminders of some things that, when this was approved 10 years ago, we had 73% of the voters approving this. So it's been, the community has stepped up in the past and approved this. So I think, again, we've got a lot of work to do. One of the things we talked about is probably forming a technology blue ribbon panel type of thing to give an outside view of what, do the schools really need this? Now, we heard maybe the blue ribbon panel tonight that are meeting with the high school student senate, but, because it's hard for regular voters to say, well, I was perfectly okay when I went to high school and didn't need all this technology. Why do you need it? And so some of this is to the extent that we get some outside, it's not just the school board doing this, some outside experts to talk about how important this is for the education. This is not a frill or an extra or just a cool thing, but it's really essential. What did I miss, Sarah?
The only thing I would say, excellent job, is that what we heard from the Student Senate was that this is a real pain point, and that this is having technology not be as consistent as it should be in this day and age, where technology is embedded in all of the classroom learning with in much more than any of us had as students. It's disruptive when it doesn't work, and so we need to do better. And it sounds like the teachers agree. We got some teachers nodding, both in the Student Senate meeting and here. And so just Mike's point, we need to talk about it more. We need to talk about it not just at school board meetings, but when we're talking with our friends, we need to bring up the tech levy about why it's so important. And that it really is classroom based. This is funding technology that is used in the classroom. And so it's not terribly sexy stuff. It's somewhat boring. It's fibers and routers and security and things like that, but it's really crucial. It's sort of building blocks. And so I just want to call out that what we heard from students, what we hear from students, whether it's at the Student Senate or from our own kids, is that this is a pain point and we need it. And our community needs to hear that. Thank you.
So that was the finance committee, and then you'll hear the other thing. We had a policy committee meeting last week too. We spent time talking about, there's a whole section on school board policies about how we run the school board. So while there's a lot on the agenda tonight, this is about half of them. This is the easy half. Not that the other half is hard, but this is the easy half. And this is just, this is just the basics of how you run a school board. And we may look at some of these and go, well, of course, but our successors at some point on the school board may not know this. So this is why it's important that we have some of these basics for how we run the board and the district with our meetings. That's the end of my report.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wallander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. News on the arena board front. They have been looking to expand their security over there and were able to do so last week through a very generous donation from a youth hockey family. So they had cameras installed last week, which is great news. And also, I attended a virtual meeting of the Community Education Advisory Council, and really, really fantastic news about their budget over there. After some tough COVID years, because you'll remember community education's budget, a lot of that is actually fee-based. They pay for themselves. It's a separate component from the school finance budget. They bounced back. They actually were able to make a profit last year, very much so due to strong rebound in summer numbers. But their fall and winter numbers are looking fantastic as well. Right now they're running 258 classes. They have a total of 1,087 enrollments, but that turns out to actually be 920 students, which is pretty amazing. Students of all ages, that would be birth through octogenarians and beyond, because community ed does serve birth through the entire lifespan. So they are actually making over $100,000 in revenue this season. And they have a lot of other things going on too. Youth in Government is overseen by Community Education. That was back in person the weekend of January 8th, which is very exciting. They've been working with DECA on a project to get spiritware to our youngest learners over at the Discovery Center. And they have 28 Sparks mentors currently, many of them high schoolers, but also looking for great community members. That's always a need if people are looking to volunteer. And just in general, this committee is looking for more members, including students. We actually were talking about at our last meeting. Students actually could have a direct say over what kind of offerings are made through community education. It's a very responsive group. Tiffany Clifton, our leader over there, is fantastic and really looking to do what the demand is in the community. So if anyone has any interest in that committee, they can reach out to me or to Tiffany Clifton directly. And that's my plug for community ed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I guess I will just add that my appreciation to our students that met with us previous to this meeting, and a number of whom have shown up here for a very exciting school board meeting. Appreciate your giving up your time and your good input to us. It's what we're here for. It's to make your experience as positive as possible and to prepare you for life after Orono High School. So we really appreciate your willingness to meet with us and share your thoughts. So I think the sentiment was expressed that we should do this more often, and absolutely we agree with you. So we'll make sure when we're calendaring for next year that we get at least two of these meetings on the calendar, fall and spring, and possibly even a third. So thank you again. So with that, we will move on to old business. Any old business to come before the meeting? I'm not aware of any. So we'll move on to new business, which is a first reading of the policies that Mr. Bash just mentioned, and I believe we have a presentation here by Dr.
We do.
Rulon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I invite Dr. Aaron Rulon to the board table for discussion and brief remarks regarding the 7 policies in the 200 series for your review. These include Policy 202, which is the school board officers, Policy 203, school board procedures, Rules of Order, Policy 203.2, Order of the regular school board meeting, Policy 203.6, Consent Agenda, Policy 204, School Board Meeting Minutes, Policy 205, Open and Closed Meetings, and Policy 210, Conflict of Interest, School Board Members. Again, I continue to thank the Board Policy Committee for their work in review this year. Please reach out in the coming weeks for further discussion as you read through for first reading. And I turn it over to Dr. Rulon. Thank you.
Any questions by board members now? This is just a first reading, so we aren't going to be asking you to vote on them tonight, but any questions for Dr. Rulon or for our policy committee representative?
Just a note, one of the things that we spent the most time talking about was staff evaluations. And while that is our practice to annually evaluate staff, it wasn't clearly written in here that that would be the objective of the board, that we would direct the superintendent to make sure that we have annual evaluations of staff. And so we spent a lot of time that we believe that that was an important statement from the board, that we expected annual evaluations, which again, I think that's the expectation and the normal practice, but we thought that it would be good to put it in writing.
And to be clear, we're not the ones making
We're
the
not doing
staff
it. It's
evaluation.
directing the
Yeah.
superintendent to create a system for it.
Right.
That's all we're doing, is directing the superintendent to create that system.
Any other questions? If not, I would express my appreciation again to the policy committee and to you, Dr. Rulon, and to Dr. Flesher for going through these. It was actually kind of fun in a weird sort of way to read through them this weekend, and I was going, well, we're actually doing all this stuff, which is great. So it's a good reminder to pull these out occasionally to make sure we are doing things right, and fortunately, I think we are. So thank you, and appreciate all the time that's spent on this. I assume that if there's any questions between now and our next board meeting, when we will be voting on these, that we can reach out to you. All right, thank you. All right, is there any other new business to come before the meeting? I'm not aware of any. I would point your attention to the informational items that are in our packets, including the February enrollment information. And point out that our next regular meeting will be held 2 weeks from tonight, back in the same place, District Office Assembly Room, 7 p.m. And with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate you coming.